Welcome back to the landing strip. As come into this one after a pretty big exhale with how that game had tilted. That being said, the Winnipeg Jets become the second NHL team to start a season 13-1-0 following the 2007-2008 Ottawa Senators. Mikey, how are you feeling tonight after hearing those words?
Who would have thought at this point in the season we'd be sitting here talking about a legitimate historic run by the NHL's by the Winnipeg Jets? It doesn't quite feel real, to be honest, the way that they're playing and winning games right now. Yeah, it's quite shocking, to be honest. I'm a little out of words. They keep finding ways to win.
And they find today, let's just start. Hey, let's get the vibes going first. Who am I kidding? I'm going to forget if we don't do it. Let's get them going.
Ooh.
We got to play that win song.
We need our sound. That's right. All right, let's pull that up here. There we go. In 3, 2, 1.
Boy, does it feel good. Every single time it feels good to hear that song played.
I walk around singing it for about an hour after every show now.
I definitely hear you there. And we're playing that one today on the back of Connor fucking Hellebuck, man. The best goalie in the world. Back-to-back shutouts. His 40th in his career, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
And he really, I kind of put out a tweet there in the third period that game kind of became a bit of a game where I almost felt like we were watching two heart-level players go toe-to-toe. It seemed pretty evident in that second period, especially, and moving into the third, definitely in the third, that Nate McKinnon was a man on a mission.
Yep.
And it did not matter when Connor Hellebuck was at the other end, closing that door, no matter what was thrown at him.
Yep.
It's another game like where you just sit there and watch and say, God, we're lucky, man.
It's when I go back and think about the days of watching Andre Pavlik, Michael Hutchinson, man the net for the Jets, and then you go and you look at Connor Hellebuck today. Where we've come from, in that period is incredible, and we're real lucky that we get to watch him for 80 or 60-ish games a year. It's pretty great.
Definitely so, and we're gonna feel even better about that fact when the rumored Shesterkin deal gets over the line. It looks like it's going to tomorrow. We're seeing some reports of it being maybe $11.5 million. I'll take Connor Hellebuck for the rest of his career at $3 million less. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely. When you look at what that deal is signed for right now and the value we're getting out of it, hey, that's a real nice spot to be in.
It definitely is. Definitely an interesting game in this one. The Winnipeg Jets come out of the gates hot. I thought they really played a near perfect first period against this Colorado Avalanche team where I felt the Jets dictated that entire first. Obviously, they get the early goal from Gabe Vilardi where Mark Scheifele makes a really good defensive play with the takeaway at the blue line of Josh Manson, goes the other way for a 2-on-1, finds Gabe Vilardi, who we've been talking about a lot this year, guys piling up the points and streaks. Don't look now, but Gabe Vilardi is red hot for the Winnipeg Jets, and absolutely beautiful finish. But we're looking now at, what is it?
6 goals in the last 8 games coming into tonight.
That sounds right. Yeah. Yes, you're bang on, and that's 6 points, or that's a 6-game point streak. 8 points in those 6 games.
Yep.
Again, this team is finding ways to have different guys produce, different guys get hot, and just today was one of those ones where they found a way to win. I don't think we've really had those where you're hanging on to the seat of your pants. The other team had kind of taken it over.
Yep.
I would definitely pencil this one in the find a win category. It felt like coming out of the second, they almost put the brakes up and were playing really, really passive.
Yeah, it did.
And we've seen what a team like Colorado with that speed can do against a passive hockey team. And they sure had me clenching at times. Did that series bring back any concerns from last year's playoff round against Colorado, where this team's going in the big picture, before we dive into some of the individual stuff within the game?
Yeah, second period definitely gave me playoff vibes from last year. I was starting to have some PTSD flashbacks on that one. The pushback was real evident for stretches there, but the fact that they buckled down and they kept pressing Colorado, they didn't like Colorado came at them. Choices SDK in the chat points out like the speed difference was pretty evident at times. Which it definitely was, but they at no point felt like they were the ones sitting back. They still wanted to press Colorado and get those chances in the offensive zone. So I was real happy with the way that the game looked compared to where we finished last season with Colorado.
I agree. In the first period, the back 40 gave me a lot to be concerned about when it comes to just how much slower and how passive they did get against Colorado with the lead. One thing I think the Winnipeg Jets have done really well, and it bears in a lot of the numbers, in one-goal games, the Winnipeg Jets have been really strong, whether behind a goal or up a goal. And it's because they've pressed. And I felt like today, I don't know what was said in that intermission, if they were just motivated on that night to try and kill out a one-goal game against the Avs, and mission accomplished.
Yep.
But that's not the type of approach I think is going to work for this team as they move deeper into the season, as we get through some of this schedule.
Yep.
And it does continue to be the one big Achilles heel. I found that once the Avs picked up the puck in the neutral zone, there was stretches where, and a lot of it was coming from McKinnon, who, I mean, we're talking about one of the very best players in the world.
Yep.
But it felt like they just had so much time and space to do as they pleased. And then in the D zone, when the Winnipeg Jets, who we've talked about have been structurally sound defensively, it felt like Colorado was able to draw them off their position a little bit and there was a lot of quality looks in the center of the ice today, I found, which has been a rarity for this Winnipeg Jets team.
Yep.
But then I think a lot of that too comes from how many times today did we see a rebound or a shot end up in the corner, and the Avs were winning those races to get secondary opportunities. Big win, pretty impressive to end up as the second team to ever accomplish something in 14 games. But this was a game that does leave me a little concerned about the downside aspects that we know exist on this roster when it comes to puck movement, when it comes to speed, when it comes to those things. I mean, it's what kind of killed them in the playoffs. But seeing that back 40, it's great to have the human equalizer, the God himself in net.
Yep.
But that was a Colorado team missing a bunch of guys in their top 9, and their top end guys were still able to make a game that looks like that. Just something to keep in the back of our heads here as we continue moving forward into this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we'll have to make sure we keep an eye on, because it's great to get the win and the points now, but it's, yeah, like you said, that can come back and bite you later. In the chat, Zooch40 pointing out Colorado missing almost two top lines tonight as well. So that's definitely gonna play into it, right?
For sure. Though it does sound like Landeskog might not be making it back now if Adrian Dater is accurate, which tough to see. He's been battling back for 2 years now. But that is a blow to the Avs big picture if he doesn't make his way back. It does seem like they're going to get Val back this month. and we'll see where his game is at. We know what he did to the Winnipeg Jets in that first round.
Yep.
So the Avs definitely are going to get a little bit better over the course of this year.
Absolutely.
And we just saw it. Their top end guys are that good.
Yep. Yeah, they can carry you still missing those type of players and still come at you in a game like that. So, yeah, not worried about them being there later.
And it wasn't pretty, but to Choices TK's credit here and the Winnipeg Jets credit, Choices says that the third period felt like they just circled the wagons and defended. And they did, and they survived. And you saw some desperation out of their defending in the last couple minutes. And that's a tell, too. I mean, you don't want to take away from that. They really put their foot down and were trying to make it happen. I mean, another big aspect in this game that certainly helped was the discipline. I mean, you see a game tilt like that, it's very easy to start taking penalty after penalty. And they didn't until $1:10 left.
Yeah.
And that's another way to tilt the scales in the old box score, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, the power play didn't come through today. Can't expect it to every night.
Yep.
But if you're not sending the other team's best players to an odd man advantage multiple times a game, you're definitely bettering your own odds. So discipline continues to be a strong suit here. Though they go the penalty kill late, last minute 10, and Dylan DeMello makes a big play with his stick to defend what could have been a backdoor opportunity really early in that shift. Gets it up to Morgan Barron, and I have no idea how he misses that trying to go top sheds on
my God, I know.
On the empty net.
I honestly think it was one of those you're used to trying to pick a corner right over a goalie's shoulder, and just muscle memory kicked in maybe, and he's like, go top shelf. No, man, open net.
It honestly, at that moment, it gave me Patrick Steffen vibes with the Dallas Edmonton game. I'm like, oh yeah. Oh, it's gonna go the other way. We're in some trouble here. Yeah. But Connor Hellebuyck shuts the door. We get through it.
Yep.
And Zooch 40 in the chat brings this to a place that excited me tonight when it comes to the Winnipeg Jets and how they're managed. Zooch 40 comments, the Jets going to ESV to tilt the ice back. The telling move is a telling move by Arneal. Scott Arneal continues to absolutely push the right buttons in my view. And I don't remember ever seeing a coach in Winnipeg who now has done this twice during a 13-1-0 stretch where he hasn't liked a period and a half of what he's seeing, and he goes to the old nuclear option that we've all debated for some time.
Yep.
It just tells me Scott Arneal isn't fucking around. Scott Arneal is here to coach this team to success. He's here to pull all the right levers.
Yep.
And it just excites me when you see proactive coaching like that. I mean, we've seen it so often in this market where, hell, Bones would make a switch and it'd go well, and then we'd go back to what wasn't working and get him back the other way.
Yep.
Continue to really like Arneal being proactive when he's not liking what he's seeing. He's making slight adjustments. We saw him go to Ehlers Scheifele Velarde. We saw him go to Connor, Nemestikov, Perfetti. We saw him go to Nino, Lowry, Iafallo for one shift, and then back to Appleton.
Yep.
And then we saw in the last couple of minutes, Iafallo took Velarde's shift up a goal. So it continues to be a trend that Scott Arneal does not trust Gabe Velarde in the last 4 minutes of games with the lead. So that's an interesting one. Keep in mind, he goes to the big guys, those still. Again, I'm really liking what we're seeing, and you saw the clip of it today on the broadcast where Kyle Connor was saying how Scott Arneal seems to have a very good pulse on that group as far as keeping them motivated despite this start. We know this is a team that in years past, I do feel, has gotten a little high on their own game when things are going well. Yep. And we're not seeing that right now. We're seeing a team that even when it's not going well, on a night like tonight where I think you leave with some concerns on the big picture again, they continue to just go to work and not quit on games, man. I don't know. I'm impressed, even though today was not their best showing, and that's going to happen.
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple times where they're still able to win a game that's ugly, to win a game that maybe last year they wouldn't have won, a game that they would have given up a goal late, or a game they wouldn't have been able to storm back in that way. So they're not all going to be, to quote our friend Bullsy 10 in the chat, they're not all going to be Picassos, but you'll take the win sometimes. And that's kind of what tonight was, especially against an opponent this was a bit of a, revenge game, right? So they went out, they got the win, even not playing their best. It continues the trend of go out, bank those points, keep that run going, and keep working on your game while you're doing it.
Yeah, 100%. Nice to see you in here, Bullsy. Appreciate you being around. Choices TK also points out the Avs top players all played 24 plus minutes tonight. They clearly went to the well trying to get this game into overtime, and it didn't quite get there.
Yeah, that was they being so shorthanded, right? You're going to see a lot of those high minutes for those top end guys until they can fill out some of those guys coming back from injury. So yeah, they pressed hard with everything that they had at the moment, and Hellebuck, and the Jets stood strong.
They stood strong indeed. Zooch 40, love this comment. This game shows exactly why we need a big time Casey Middlestat type ad. Colorado is good without those guys currently, which is why we need to kind of add to get on par. And as someone that was really pounding the drum for Casey Middlestat as the 2C last year, because of his age, because of the term that was attached to it, plus his skill set, I love the idea. Though I don't think the Jets were in a position to really acquire him last year based on the Bowen Byram price tag. Yeah. I think Zooch is bang on there. I continue to not love Vlad in the offensive role we're seeing with either set of wingers.
Yeah.
Like that. And it's one play, but I think there's just so many of the offensive touches that go to die on his stick to talk about it. But obviously the one play that really stands out to me is the 2-on-1 with Kyle Connor, and he waits and waits and waits until the D drops. If I'm Vlad Nemestikov on a 2-on-1 with Kyle Connor, one of the hottest players in the NHL out of the gate, I want to get it to him early in that sequence, make the D and goalie adjust, trust the puck in the hands of the most skilled shooter there.
Yep.
But just small things like that. That 2C is definitely going to have to be upgraded with a offensively inclined player for my money at this point. Totally. Love Vladdy and love what he brings to this team, but I just think it's really starting to show on offensive touches. But that's a long ways away. The team keeps cooking. I just do think Zooch really nails that, and I do think that's an area where we'll be looking to see what Mr. Kevin Shovel-Dayoff does.
See what he can cook up for us. Go find us another Paul Stastny type of trade.
Yes, exactly. We'll see where that goes down the line.
Our friend
points out,
go ahead.
Go for it.
I was just gonna say, our friend in the chat, Choice STK, points out Arniel doing what a coach needs to do: know your players' strengths and weaknesses and put them in positions to succeed. Yeah, it sounds simple when you lay it out like that, but I think our friend Stressful Gengar points out we haven't seen that a lot in Winnipeg before. So yeah, it's really a breath of fresh air.
And I think it's big too, as far as and obviously I think it's safe to say we spend a lot of time focusing on the actual on-ice results and what we're seeing. But I do think it does court him favors with the locker room as well.
Yep.
It's no secret that a certain two players really like playing together. And I think it becomes a much easier sell when you have that trust. Hey, things are going well right now. We'll go to you guys. But he's also not scared to wave that little motivation drum there and make the swap when the game isn't going well. Yep. I just think he's handling the on ice and a lot of the stuff pretty well. I do wonder about this whole backing up against speedy teams that we're now seeing on. It has been,
which means they're practicing that. You know what I mean? It feels like this is something they're like actively thinking about doing, which is weird.
it is weird, especially when you look at this team's strengths versus weaknesses. Like
Yeah.
the Winnipeg Jets, you want to pressure teams and keep the puck moving north because you don't want to spend too much time defensively and struggling to move it and transition. So it's the one odd spot, but everything else, I do like how he's managing both this group on ice, but how I think the players themselves would handle that kind of trust, that kind of rope, but it's not free reign.
Yep.
Um, Much better than how these situations have been handled in years past. I
Oh yeah.
continue to be um, very impressed with what I'm seeing from the coaching staff there.
In the YouTube chat, our good friend who joined us this time, because we are the Better Post Game Show, Toronto Sports Network 243. Thanks for being here today. They point out Arneal has pulled out a mini blender in the last 3 third periods, and it's working. He's finding, the space a little bit better when he goes to that blender, and it's huge. It's yeah, I've been impressed.
It tells me that he knows whenever the bump in the road is going to come. And the bumps in the road is going to come. It comes for every team over the course of 82 games. It's not going to be panic time, but it does tell me that Arneal knows where he needs to go to get that push back in the other direction. And to me, that's a big positive.
Completely
You
agree.
keep riding what's working. You're putting up historic level results where they matter most, and that's in the standings with the points. But it also just gives me that comfort that whenever this bump does eventually hit this team, and I gotta say, the longer it doesn't, the more fun I'm having with this group. Like this has just
Yep.
been a ton of fun to be around.
Yep.
But it just gives you that confidence that Arneal does have a different approach to this. He does see what we're all seeing, and he does know he can go to it. And I think that's exciting as far as not getting stuck somewhere, even though you've been successful. So, hey, I continue to love that aspect from Scott Arneal.
Totally agree. Ballsy10 in the chat is asking what the high danger chances were for each team. We've got that here for you. The Jets finished the game with 5 high danger chances for, and the Avs finished with 11. So there you go, Ballsy.
Yeah,
5 to 11. So they doubled us up on high danger chances tonight. So thank God for Connor Hellebuck.
It was interesting, too, because obviously Gorgiev only allows the one. But I thought early in that one, watching him laterally, I think there was an opportunity for the Jets if they were a bit stronger in the slot
Yep.
for a couple of rebound opportunities. It just wasn't happening there for them tonight.
Yep.
And then obviously he makes that big save on Nick Ehlers in the last few minutes of that game. Shout out to Mason Appleton for that dangle and pass.
Yep.
But yeah, Gorgiev comes up big. Connor Hellebuck, though, 11 high danger chances against some very high end players. I mean, McKinnon was all over this one.
Yep.
There, another big defensive play I want to talk about, though. Obviously, Connor Hellebuck, we're talking about the big saves. Josh Morrissey on that 2-on-1 with Nate McKinnon and Artemi Lehkonen in the second period.
Takes a goal off the board.
Yeah, a bit of a misplay from DeMello in the ozone leads to a 2-on-1 with a couple of the Avs' best players, and Nathan McKinnon handling it and Lehkonen driving the net. Morrissey plays it phenomenally, not overcommitting, seeing he's got the back pressure from DeMello, who got on his tail and was back checking. Josh Morrissey plays that perfectly to break it up. And then shout out to Nick Ehlers on this play as the high forward. He doesn't quit on his back check, and it stops the Avs from even having their third guy in the high slot where the breakup play kind of ends up, not get a chance. So we did see a lot of plays like that tonight where it wasn't always the prettiest. It needed a big hero moment, but the Winnipeg Jets stepped up in those moments, and you got to enjoy that from a team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They're finding that space. It's impressive. And it's going to look real good when Josh Morrissey is skating around in a Team Canada jersey. Can't wait.
I'm excited to see 44 at that tournament. He's going to be in the top 4 of that team, no doubt about it.
I was just going to ask you where you think he'll play on Team Canada.
He's got to be in the top 4. Like,
right?
I imagine you keep Makar and Taves together probably.
Yeah, just because of they've played together.
Yeah, pair him up with whatever right-handed D you want to, because Josh Morrissey is that guy, and he's definitely deserving. Again, I thought this was an example of We talk about the high-end talent comparison, and that's always been my big concern. I thought this was another example of Josh Morrissey stepping up and standing out in that crowd for the Winnipeg Jets in a game that the ice tilted the other way on them. So again, he continues to be that elite presence that this team's needed on that back end. And yeah, it was him and DeMel were probably the one pairing that didn't get caved tonight. I mean, I haven't pulled up the numbers completely yet, but just from a vibes, I mean, I thought Sandberg and Pionk had a real tough one.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's games like this where the Avs are just so fast on you, and we know the puck movement aspect for the Jets is their problem, and you see that all compile in this one game showing where I feel like Neil Pionk, when he has to think about things, that's when he gets himself in trouble.
Yeah.
Sandberg, I mean, he's such a good defender, but when the puck's on his stick and he's under pressure, not the position I want to see him in.
Yep.
And I thought, I mean, it's a broken record at this point until the team acknowledges it. But this was just another real big example, as coming off of his best game of the year too, that Logan Stanley just doesn't have it to play against teams like this, and these are the type of teams you're going to play against.
Yep.
I thought all the goodwill built up from last game quickly fell apart for me, and it's just like it's not even just one aspect or oh here's another Stanley route. If you're watching this game, and we finally saw what it took for even Kevin Sawyer to call out Logan Stanley,
Yeah.
where the net front's a problem. He loses track of his guys in the net front, and the whole idea is that he's this big bad defenseman. You want him for those spots on the ice. It's not a specialty. When the puck's on his stick and he's being pressured, it becomes a grenade that gets passed off to the next guy. In open ice, like it's just not what you're looking for. Blue line in, offensive blue line in. I'm fine with Logan Stanley's game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mostly spamming shots at the net, but it's just everything else that you need to build into a player, especially one on a team like this. I thought just today was another example where I don't have confidence in the bottom four once we get to the playoffs. And maybe it's an overreaction to this game, and maybe I'm scarred from years past.
Yeah.
But I just think the floor of this team and the areas they do need to improve on once we get deeper into the season, I think it got exposed tonight.
Yeah.
So
games
that's
like
kind of where
tonight
I'm at there.
would have been a spot I would have liked to have seen Hayden Fleury take a game instead. You know, I get that they're, you know, really trying to make the Stanley thing work. They're giving him, you know, all the runway that they can to try to make this, you know, throwing good money after bad kind of thing. Like they're trying to make something out of this. I totally understand that. They want to know what they have in this asset before they, you know, try to make any future decisions on long-term contracts, those type of things. But I just feel like we've seen enough. I feel like we have enough data. We've seen it with the eye test. The numbers are there. It all kind of lines up and matches up. And in a game where this is going to be a potential playoff opponent for you at some point this year, you know, God willing, all things going in the right direction, I would have liked to have seen, Hayden Fleury get a run in this game to see how he looks against this type of competition, how he looks against this type of speed. It feels like it would have been a spot for that, but I feel like we're stuck with Stanley in that spot unless there's an injury, so it's kind of moot.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's one of those things where we can only talk about it so often, but it does look like the chat saw a lot of the same stuff as us.
Yeah.
Bullsy 10 mentions, Big Stan was exposed on many occasions tonight. I think Zuch really nails it here, where Stanley just doesn't process the game fast enough, and he's fine. He's fine against lesser opponents. He's not someone that kills you, and I think a lot of people on social media really overdo it. Every time they see him in the lineup, they talk about losing. At the end of the day, so many teams have won a Stanley Cup with the number 6 D-man that's not very good. It's not the type of spot that's going to kill you, but it is this type of spot where you could definitely take a step forward and especially try and find a puck mover. Like this team needs multiple pairs that can move the puck efficiently, and that should be the focus, is finding that first within your org, whether it be a Hayden Fleury getting back in or Ville Heinola whenever he's healthy,
Yep.
or or later in the season when you're able to acquire somebody that can help those areas. I just think, based on my preconceived notion of the team's strengths and weaknesses, I think today really, really exposed those weaknesses. Connor Hellebuck erases them on this night, but we know what
Yeah.
that looks like in a 7-game series. We don't have to look that far back
Yeah,
to
exactly.
remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Teams shorten up the bench right in the playoffs. A lot of times they'll end up going to four defensemen late in games and things like that. So, yeah, Logan Stanley maybe isn't going to be costing you a lot right now, but if they want this to be a special year with a deep run, they're going to need a deeper lineup, and I think Logan Stanley's an easy spot to upgrade.
Yeah, and on all of this, when it comes to defensively, the team and whatnot, Choices TK mentions from Murat. Gabriel Velarde put it plainly. Bucky won that game for us. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And you know what? On one hand, I don't want to overread into lip service when it comes to teams and stuff. Like it's easy to say the right thing,
Yep.
but I do like a lot of the message coming out of the Winnipeg Jets room and players this year. I mean, in years past, I felt we'd watch a game like this, and then the team would kind of gaslight you with, yeah, that was a great hockey game, big W, kind of move it forward.
Yep.
And we saw Bonus. Bonus really brought this out, but I think it's really showing right now when the team is having such success. You see Kyle Connor talking about a motivated group. Arneal keeping the finger on the pulse. They know they haven't accomplished anything. Dylan DeMello has now publicly talked about it. Gabe Velarde has no problem saying they weren't at their best tonight and their goaltenders stole them a game. I think those are important approaches to see a team buy into big picture. And I do like to see that while the team's 13-1-0, this team is aware that, hey, there's things we got to do better. There's steps we need to get better. At the end of the day, they're working their way to a playoff series, and that's where everything is going to be determined. I almost feel like we're in the same spot under less of a microphone than teams like the Leafs have been, where
Yep.
the results in the playoffs are where everybody's going to judge what this year was, despite all of this fun we're living in right now. And I think it's really good to see, or at least it feels like, based on how they're handling things publicly, that the team is bought into that mindset as well. It's been good.
Oh yeah. How often were we subjected to watching the Jets play an objectively bad game of hockey, win or lose, it didn't matter, just they had played a bad game, and then to have to hear Blake Wheeler come out and say, "We liked our game tonight." I can hear it still in my nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat. We liked our game tonight. How? How
Yeah.
did you like your game tonight? Like, we watched you play, my guy. Like, you can't, So yeah, it's nice to see that on a night where they did get the win against a big opponent, they can still come out and go, yeah, we didn't play all that great, but our goaltender, won the game for us, or however he phrased it. It's a good mentality to have, I think.
And to continue on that train, Jacob Beals puts in the chat, Scheif said on CJOB, we were a bunch of asterisks. I'm just going to fill them in with shit at this moment. Helly stole the show. So again, I like that. I like to see that mantra. And again, it goes back to Scott Arneal having a pulse on it. But I think that the Winnipeg Jets core, right now at least, seems to have a real pulse on it. We'll see. I think the truest test for any professional sports team, but especially this one, what does that look like when they get kicked in the teeth a little bit? I think adversity tells us things about professionals. But the fact that they're embracing this mentality with a historic level start, again, love it. Love to hear it. Love to see it. I continue to have really good vibes about where this thing's trending.
Yeah, I was talking to some other fans on social media about the Jets, and that was one of the things that a couple people mentioned was the mentality, kind of the attitude of this team. They seem connected, they seem bought in, and they seem self-aware. Like, it just, this is kind of the best mentally I think we've seen the Winnipeg Jets maybe in the whole time they've been here, outside of that one great run.
Yeah, no, it's been fun. Even on see a game like this, the last few years, I'm probably coming on here just ranting and raving. But when we've seen such good performances stacked on top of each other for some time now, at some point you're gonna have a night like this. I just think it's important for what are the lessons being taken out of a game like this, and the fact that it seems like the team knows there's lessons to take from it. The fact we've seen what this looks like, I think it's interesting. I think you keep moving from each day. I think the organization really has to study the tape in this game and how the Avs create so much space from them that allows their speed to take over, because this is very well could be another first round matchup, and it is a matchup even with the win today I would not feel confident in at this moment in time. And again, it might be because of last year, but just watching tonight, we saw a lot of the same things that brought them down a little bit.
Yep, absolutely.
Trapinator points out the line shuffling tonight was all over the place, constantly changing in the third. And yeah, it's a good sign for a coach that was seeing the game kind of go the wrong direction, looking to find something.
Elias McCracken on YouTube points out, got to remember that McKinnon and Makar are currently 1-2 in scoring this year, even after being shut out tonight. And just to double onto that, coming into the game tonight, both Winnipeg and Colorado were the only two teams that had 3 players in the top 15 NHL scoring. So they brought in some firepower, but so did we.
No, for sure. That is a great point, and that is, I think, an aspect you could feel good about. We saw the Lowry line go head-to-head with the McKinnon line, and they got their chances, but they didn't break.
Yep.
It's just, if a game flow like that over the course of 7 games would not be something I'm comfortable with, essentially.
Yes.
But yeah, those are some of the absolute best players in this league, and at sometimes if those guys are on, there's just nothing you can do. Like the way McKinnon looked to me in the last 40 minutes, good luck kind of thing. It's one of those times where you put the seatbelt on, you strap in, and you hope you get through it.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, you could do things as a team, and I think the team has some areas we talk about fixing up that neutral zone so it's not so getting backed up so easily against teams that can transition like this, and getting better on the puck movement and in the D zone. But the other aspect is you are playing against some of the other best players in the world. And when you're talking about the Colorado Avalanche, guys like Makar and McKinnon, we're talking about the best handful of players in the world. And they do have the ability to do things like that. They didn't score, didn't get on the score sheet. You could take some good vibes from that as well.
Absolutely. We got a first-time chatter. Mr. Jeremy 7, welcome in. Thanks for joining the show. They were hoping the power play could have been better tonight, and yeah, we definitely would have liked to seen a power play goal to help pad that out tonight. But they've been pretty incredible so far on the year, so we'll give them they get one tonight. We'll let them have one night off.
It was interesting. I if I'm remembering correctly, I felt like their best kind of cycle as a power play unit was during the split shift when Kyle Connor ends up staying on with that second group.
Yes.
Definitely could have been a little bit better, but they've carried this team to so many wins. Hard to ask them to be the difference every single night, and they did not need to be on this one.
They'll just alternate. One night they'll be the game saver, and the other night it'll be Connor Hellebuck, and we'll just 81-1 the rest of the way. Let's go.
Definitely. Let's go. Trapinator and Bowlesy are talking about El Nino and Nino Niederreiter. Nino's puck against the boards was a bit of a momentum swing late in the third. Bowlesy says, I agree, Nino had a great game. And it is little plays like that that really matter as the time's running out. Nino Niederreiter's at the end of the shift and sees that he's in a race with Josh Manson, who I felt the Jets victimized at times tonight. The speed element in Josh Manson's game is non-existent. And I felt like he was a guy the Jets did take some advantage of tonight. Yep. Nino sees that, beats him late in the shift, and then just uses his strength to kill time. Leading, I want to say it brought us down to like 3:05 left. It's those kind of details that they might not be sexy. They might not be played on the replay tomorrow. But it's just that commitment to doing what it takes to get out of that 60 minutes with a win. You love to see efforts like that.
Yeah, you need them. It's huge.
Definitely was.
See. Trapinator was asking if McKinnon has scored a 5-on-5 goal yet this season. I was going to pull that up for him real quick and take a look.
Talk about crazy shift in his seasons. If so, last year, if I'm not mistaken, he had the highest percentage of 5-on-5 points relative to his numbers, or he was up there in 5-on-5 points last year.
Yeah, he does not have a 5-on-5 goal yet this season.
That's a pretty remarkable stat. And obviously, I haven't been watching all of Colorado's games, but if I just watching what I saw from him today, though he did feel more dangerous today as a playmaker, as he would draw in the Jets and find the open guy. But that one does surprise me. Good pull, Trapinator.
Yeah, that's a real it's an interesting storyline to watch going forward to see if his production is going to shift now to only power play.
I love Zero Ghost 8 with the trolling in here. Say what you will about Logan Stanley, but he has as many goals as Pierre-Luc Dubois does this season. Woo!
I mean, those are just facts. Those are just numbers. I don't know. That's it's just facts.
If I'm not mistaken, PLD's only goal is on an empty net. So, I mean, Stanley's beaten the goaltender this year, and he hasn't. So,
so you're saying he'll be cheap to trade for at the deadline. Excellent. 2C.
Excellent to see indeed. I do gotta play and I'm someone that loves the fantasy trade aspects. Obviously, a lot of our shows we start looking at fantasy fits in Winnipeg to upgrade this team. I do gotta say I admire how big the chat's swinging on this one. But the chat is currently talking about going to get Roman Josi as the Predators lose another one in this early part of the season. Quite the interesting development in Nashville. And if you're a top line Winnipeg listener, if you enjoy the landing strip, you would know I've been calling that team the retirement home Predators.
Yes.
Did not love their offseason and spending so much money on mid 30 plus guys when I felt the Nashville Predators surprised me last year, if I'm being honest. I had them pegged as a team missing. I believe I had Minnie in and Nashville out when it came to the Central.
Yeah.
And I looked at their offseason, and what I found last year when watching the Predators in-house was the roster wasn't sexy, but we know Philip Forsberg, Roman Josi, and UC Saros are all elite talents that could shift the game. But they had such a team built on speed and tenacity that they just became such a load in the second half for teams to handle that I didn't love them getting older, slower with guys over the hill. And it's costing them. And what I find interesting about today's score, they get slaughtered by the Florida Panthers 6-2. And the Florida Panthers, talk about a team that there was no Stanley Cup hangover with. They do look quite good early on in this season. But Nashville, Barry Trotz comes out this week publicly, a GM in his first 14 games of the season, after spending $100 million plus on these old guys. Talks about if they don't turn their season around, they're going to have to go into rebuild mode, which for one, I think is kind of impossible after the contracts they signed. It's not like you're getting out of that money. I think that was him trying to send a message to his team that things got to get better and it's on them. They respond with a 6-2 loss to Florida, in which they went down 4-0 in this one. They generated a whole 4 shots in the second period while being down 4-0. Might be some sirens coming out of Nashville soon, and I think that's a very good thing for the Winnipeg Jets. Though I'm gonna poo-poo the Roman Josi stuff. I think that's a big time pipe dream.
Yeah, that's not realistic, unfortunately. But there could be some things to pick apart if they fall out. Which, God, it looks like they're going to right now.
Yes, and Choices TK says, "Do you trade Salmonson if you get you Josi?" I'm just gonna throw this out there. Roman Josi will not be a Winnipeg Jet, but if there was a possibility of Roman Josi being a Jet, you do not hug any prospect. Let's be real here. You do not. You're not married to any of the young kids if a guy like that becomes a
available.
possibility.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah. I mean, you want to maintain your organization's future, but if you can get a number one defenseman, top 5 defenseman signed long term like that, I'm sorry, it does not matter who's moving. Like you trade guys
You
off
make
this
it work.
roster for a guy like that. Yeah, 100%. Here's an interesting one though by Choices TK, and one that I would really enjoy. Though I haven't really followed his year this year, and he is getting a little bit older, so maybe I'll change my mind once I dive in a little bit. Ryan O'Reilly, if they fall out of it, signed a 4-year deal at $4.5 million per. That's an interesting center fix for the 2C spot. And
how old is ROR now?
He was born in 91, so at 33.
Yeah.
Little old for a 4-year deal, but at $4.5 million.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
I can make
Choices,
that work.
I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good. It's a good call choices.
Good. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Zuch has only 3 years left on that contract. There you go.
Even
Trying
better.
to pull up info on the fly. Yeah, I forgot that kicked in last year. So yeah, even better. And I don't believe he ended up getting a no trade clause as part of that deal. And the other interesting part about a contract like Ryan O'Reilly's, and it might have to be a conversation we start having around the Winnipeg Jets. It is a backloaded deal when it comes to the actual physical cash being paid out.
Yes.
Interesting idea. That's a really interesting one.
There's
You got the juices flowing. Choices. I have been a Ryan O'Reilly fan throughout his career. Talk about a two-way centerman that could help both ends of the ice for this squad.
I like that. Yep. Jacob Heels in the chat says, "Man, so glad Trotz didn't take the free beer offer to come to Winnipeg."
I'm not sure. I gotta say, I'm not sure I'd go that far, because it was supposed to be as a coach. So I do think there is an element of management in there. What I find interesting about the Trotz thing, I'm gonna throw another theory out there. Let's talk about the Preds in the Central a little bit. Cody Magnuson, who I know listens to this show, had the theory, the way Trotz worded that, because what I found interesting about Trotz so far in Nashville, I thought he actually did a really good job of starting to kickstart a rebuild in Nashville. They do have 3 firsts in the upcoming draft. They were really looking to get younger. They were also looking to grab some guys that were in their mid-20s that might not have fit elsewhere. And so Cody Magnuson's theory was, the Trotz quote was something along the lines, and I'm paraphrasing, if we don't turn this around soon, we are going to have to move forward with our rebuild plan. And he had posed the idea that the way Trotz words that publicly and going public so early with it, he wonders if the owner wanted to see them try and take a step, and which led to spending some of that money and has them in this position. Your thoughts on a theory like that?
Ooh, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought about it in that aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
the thing, right? You just don't know for sure.
You just don't know. That's interesting. I'd have to think on that.
And Zuch is really getting me going here. Zuch 40 RRR with Perfetti and Connor. Ehlers, Scheifele, Velarde is a sick top 6.
Ooh, yeah,
love the
sign
configuration.
me up with that.
Love the play style of Ryan O'Reilly between both of those guys too.
Yep.
If he's still got enough juice left in the tank. I mean, we firsthand saw, and I mean, this was years back now, players decline. It's been 6 years now. So it's not the same guy, but we firsthand saw how good Ryan O'Reilly was against the Winnipeg Jets during that Blues Cup run.
Yeah, absolutely. Bullsy 10 says, "Gotta run, guys. Always fun. See you on the next one." And they gave their 3 stars, 37, 62, and 44. Hard to argue.
I like it. Yeah.
Hard to argue that.
Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Bullsy. Hard to argue that one, indeed. And we'll see you next time. So we got about 5 minutes here, Mikey. Should we start diving into the 3 stars, or is there something top of your mind here?
Let me look at mine real quick. Yeah, no, that was that's really kind of what we saw tonight, right? The Jets held on in a bit of a storm and got that win. I think it's probably time to start hitting those 3 stars.
So what you're saying is the Winnipeg Jets hung on during a bit of an avalanche?
Ah!
Terrible.
Bum,
It's
bum, bum,
terrible.
bum.
I had to go there.
Oh, and
Terrible.
Phyllis, I saw you in the chat just now. Thanks for stopping by again, Phyllis.
Yes, good to see you, Phyllis. Zero Go State clearly jumped in late. 40th career shutout for Helly tonight. He continues to pad that glorious Hall of Fame resume, man. It's just nights like today. You just remember how lucky we really are that guy has committed his career to Winnipeg.
Yep. We owe him a Stanley Cup now. I think it's time.
It's his only goal. Okay, so who do you got for your 3 stars in this one, Mikey?
My 3 stars for tonight. Number 3, I had Gabe Velarde getting that goal in the minute 02, whatever it was, to start the game off. So we don't win without that goal going in. Second star, I know we talk about him all the time, but Josh Morrissey for me on that one. Another great game from Morrissey as he builds up his Team Canada resume, because he's gonna look so good out there. And number 1 star, back-to-back shutouts, 40th shutout of his career. It's Connor Hellebuck. There's no question for me on that one. It's Hellboy.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Man, I think this is back-to-back games. I'm keeping it boring, but I think I'm going to match you here. Gabe Velarde gets that goal, continues soaring on the offensive side of the puck. Honorable mention to Mark Scheifele, makes the big defensive play on that play. Obviously a guy whose defensive game comes into question quite often. He makes a big effort there. So we'll give him an honorable mention. I'll go 44 as the second star. Continues to shine above the rest in games like this, full of elite talent. Really, really, really love where his games come, though we
Yep.
talk about it. I almost feel like we bring him up all the time, but I don't know if we talk about him and his game enough. And number 1, there is no doubt. Could have been one of those ones where you come in and just do Hellebuck all 3. Connor frickin' Hellebuck. Zooch 40 says that Hellebuck all 3 stars. This could have been
Yep.
one of those games,
Felt like it.
for sure. But Connor Hellebuck, the man, the myth, the legend, clearly the number 1 star in this game. Clearly the reason the Winnipeg Jets beat the Colorado Avalanche, and carries in a little shutout streak to the weekend. And it's going to be a big weekend like that. At that Saturday, we got the Winnipeg double dip, eh?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I forgot about that.
The Stars come to town in the afternoon, Bombers West final in the evening, and I saw Ray and Benny, shout out Ray and Benny, who were listening last game and decided to piss off the Bomber fans for me by asking their audience if a President's Cup was a bigger accomplishment than a Grey Cup. They did not like that. They did not like that.
Weird. I'm surprised.
Whoops. So, hey, fun sports weekend coming up in Winnipeg. Big day Saturday. We'll be back to break down the Winnipeg Jets versus the Dallas Stars. This is for me the first big measuring stick, and I can't wait to see how this team stacks up. They've been doing it nightly. Let's see it Saturday afternoon. Thank you all for being here in the chat and being a part of it. Thank you all for making this show happen. We'll see you on Saturday.
Good night, everybody.